Everyone, it's exactly 6:30. So we are going to start. If we can, have everyone stand up, and the candidates will just come in. So everyone stand, please. And cue the candidates. And we will, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance too. We usually do the Pledge of Allegiance, so just remain standing. I'll start. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm David Gentner, and welcome to the GATS Conference Center. I'm Wartburg's 10th president. It's a pleasure to be able to host this event this evening. I think this is our fourth, and the primary, remember, will be held on Tuesday, September the 12th. We are one of Mount Vernon's oldest institutions. We're one of the area's largest employers and a 34-acre campus that is home to nearly 500 elders in our community, some of whom have joined us this evening. This is the fourth debate, and like I said, this is something we consider to be a special privilege. We do have some Wartburg residents in the audience tonight, which is nice to see. I'd like to thank the event sponsors this evening, the Westchester County Homeowners Coalition and the Fleetwood Citizen Society. I'd also like to thank the 5 candidates for agreeing to participate. Thank you for your dedication to the great city of Mount Vernon and for the people who live here. Before we begin, I will ask for an invocation by Reverend Dr. Hugh Marriott, Senior Pastor of Mount Vernon's Allen Temple AME Church.
Thank you, David. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it. Let us all bow our heads. Most gracious Heavenly and Eternal Father, we are so grateful to you, O God, for continuing to watch over each and every one of us during the course of our lives. Father, for many this has been a challenging week, but Lord, you saw fit that we could all be assembled here one more time just to be able to do the business of the city. Father, everything that we have in our hearts to do for this city, Lord, cannot happen without you. So we pray, Father, that you continue to be that guiding light in a city that needs you more than ever before. Father, we are grateful for these candidates, these folks who have come to serve in such an august capacity. Lord, it is something wonderful that people want to give of themselves for the benefit of others, and you have shown us the great example of what that means. But every now and then, Lord, we need your inspiration and your guidance to let us know the right way to go. So, Father, we invite your Holy Spirit's presence right here in this room. As we debate, let it be one that is civil, and let it be one of peace. Let it be, Lord, that ideas are what come forth and not necessarily personality-driven traits. Father, we pray also, Lord, for those who have struggles right now in Texas after the hurricane. We pray for those families. Father, for families that have even lost loved ones. This is difficult, and no family should ever have to bear something so dire. But tonight, Lord, we are about the city of Mount Vernon. So we ask your presence to come. Be with all the moderators, all the speakers, and all the folks who are assembled here, for they all have a heart for your great city. And we now, Lord, turn this all over to you. This we pray in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. And just to hijack the evening, I do have Angela Simonello, who's our Vice President of Development and Marketing here. Would you just introduce yourself and welcome?
Sure, of course. Hi everybody, welcome to Wartburg. Glad to have you all here on this beautiful day. Welcome to all the candidates. Glad you could make it tonight. Good luck in tonight's debate. I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. The restrooms are out these double doors through the next set of double doors on your right. This is a home to over 500 residents, so if you are outside, just be cognizant of your noise level or your radio or anything like that. We do invite you to either walk our campus or come back for a tour anytime you'd like. We'd love to show you our programs and services. And I'd just like to introduce Derrickson, who will be up here later. He's the chairman of the Westchester County Homeowners Coalition, as well as the Westchester Crime Stoppers. He's also the founder and CEO of Market View Resources. He was formerly the chairman of the Mount Vernon Housing Authority and was a trustee on the YMCA board in Yonkers. We also have Reverend Dr. Hugh Marriott, who's a pastor at Allen Temple AME Church in Mount Vernon. He's a board member at the Westchester County Homeowners Coalition, Westchester Crime Stoppers, a member of the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce, and a board member of the African American Men of Westchester. So thank you, gentlemen, for moderating and being part of tonight's events. Does anybody have any questions before we start? I have a question. How old is Wartburg? Nice. Everybody's so close. We're 151. So I just want to give us a round of applause. We love our community and those who live in it. So again, welcome.
Okay, my job is done, Derek.
Thank you, Angela, and thank you, David, for the wonderful remarks. My name is Derrickson Lawrence. I chair the Westchester County Homeowners Coalition. We advocate on behalf of homeowners across the county on a variety of issues. Those have included taxes, education, the economy, and the environment. Our mission has always been to really focus and engage the public in a way that it yields tangible results. That's our focus. So tonight, it's fitting that we follow that tradition in sponsoring this debate, the City Council debate. This time, our focus is to illuminate the quality of the candidates so that you, the public, can make an informed decision on September 12th. So join me now in thanking our host, the Wartburg, and our great committee who has pulled this together. If you can stand and be recognized, I would appreciate it. All those who've been involved in putting this event together. Yes, stand. At this time, I'm going to just introduce our moderators, and then we'll have our lead moderator come up. So we have Emerson Brown, Hugh Marriott, Ray Hollingsworth, and Mr. E. Robert E. Please come up, our first moderator, to give the audience a sense of the rules and the format, and then we'll get started. Mr. Emerson Brown.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I know there are more people in the room from that first response. All right, so let's go over the first of all, welcome, and welcome, of course, to the candidates. The format is as follows. Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes to personally introduce yourselves to the audience. And then on average, each question will have 2 minutes. You'll have 2 minutes to answer each of the questions. And then towards the end, for your closing statements, you'll have 1 minute each to present your closing statements. We will allow 1 rebuttal per round if your name happens to be mentioned by another candidate in their response, and we would ask you to limit that rebuttal to 1 minute, okay? Any questions about that, candidates? Okay. In terms of the sequencing, we will have each of the candidates select a number, a card. Each of those cards has a number 1 through 5, and each of the rounds will follow that sequence. So we'll go 1 through 5, and the next round will be 2 through 1, and so on. If you can please have each candidate select. In terms of the questions, the bulk of the questions will be coming from the committee that has formulated a number of the questions, but you, the audience, will also have the opportunity to submit questions for the candidates. If you've not done so already, please take the opportunity to place your name on your question on a card, an index card. Has everyone who has an interest in, okay, we need cards in the back. All right, place your question on an index card, and then we will take that and present that toward the end of the debate. We also want to ask each of the candidates to adhere to the 2-minute, 1-minute format so we can hear from get as many responses from you as possible. We'd like to acknowledge our timekeeper. A round of applause for Mr. Brewington, Curtis Brewington. And that is the basic format. Any questions? Okay, well, he'll give an audio time.
I'll give you 15 seconds.
15 seconds.
15 seconds.
And he has integrity. He's provided this service many times. We have every confidence. All right, so shall we begin? Okay. And what number do you have? So we have 5, 4. Can you state your name?
Janice Forte.
It's number 5.
Number 3.
Delia is number 3.
Number 1.
Number 1.
Mark is Clyde Isley, 2.
Number 2. Clyde is number 2.
My name is Hope Marable. I'm number 4.
Number 4. Okay. So why don't we go at this point 1 through 5 for your intro, and then we'll mix it up thereafter. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Marcus Griffith. I also want to thank Wartburg for hosting, Derrickson Lawrence and the Fleetwood Citizen Society for hosting the debate. Again, my name is Marcus Griffith. My parents moved me here in 1980. I've been here 37 years, and I've always said to folks that that was the best thing my parents could do for me, because they brought me into a community where people of all walks of life had all different socioeconomic skills, and I met friends that's parents had businesses or did many different things, and it gave me a great opportunity to really expand who I wanted to be in life. I went off to Lincoln University for 3.5 years, and I came back with an accounting degree. I used that accounting degree to push me along in corporate America for companies that you may know, like Malibu Kahlua, AIG, Verizon, I forget sometimes, Reader's Digest, Genry, Pernod Ricard, a lot of major financial corporations doing all types of different things. I've worked from Connecticut to Manhattan to White Plains. At some point in my career, I was appointed to the Westchester County Planning Board, which gave me experience on zoning and land use, which was very helpful for my experience on the city council. I was appointed to the city council in 2008 when Lyndon Williams moved on up to the County Board of Legislators. At some point after that, I was appointed to the city council, and I served there for 3 years. During an interim, I ran for, thank you, sir. During the interim, I ran for controller and lost. I don't think, is it on?
Yeah.
All right, I ran for controller, was not successful, but Mayor Clinton Young appointed me to the Mount Vernon Planning Board. Soon after that, I re-ran for city council, and here I am today serving again for, I guess, what would be my 3rd term. So I thank you all very much.
Good evening, Mount Vernon resident. Good evening, Mount Vernon resident. Good evening. My name is Clyde Isley, and I'm a 35-year resident of this wonderful city. I'm a retired detective sergeant from the New York City Police Department. I was appointed your police commissioner during the Blackwood administration. When I left this position, I went on to become Dean of Administration and Finance at Hostos Community College in the Bronx. My last professional position was Deputy Commissioner of Administration and Finance for Westchester County Department of Corrections. I have a master's in public administration from Pace University. I would assume my next point should be, why am I here tonight? I've watched this city for all the years that I've lived here, and I've slowly seen it deteriorate to a point where the Journal News has called us the Westchester ghetto of the county. My inmates would tell me many, many times that it was the murder capital of the county as well. And myself and Mayor Blackwood started the Mount Vernon project 25 years ago, and it still lies in ruins. That was enough for me. President Obama, our last president, said, you can either sit on the sidelines and complain, or you can get up and become involved. Well, here I am before you. I believe that my professional career qualifies me for the office of City Councilman. And I assure all of you, I understand the city charter, I understand the duties of a council person. As a former police officer, I assure you, you have my word that I will do my job, and I will do my job to the satisfaction of all of you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mount Vernon. My name is Delia Farquharson, and I am a Democrat. I'm a district leader. I'm a homeowner. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a parent, and I am your neighbor. I am running for the Democratic primary for Mount Vernon City Council, and I'm seeking your support and your vote because I believe that Mount Vernon's potential will only be realized when we work cooperatively together to improve the level of wellness and productivity in our community. For me, it begins by listening to you, my friends and neighbors, about our shared vision for our city. But listening is not enough. I will act with integrity and compassion and provide consistent feedback about what has been accomplished by our City Council. I prepared for you a list of differentiators. What distinguishes me from the other candidates? And I'll start by saying that I am an independent thinker. Anybody who knows me knows that. I was previously elected to the school board. I served 2 terms on the school board, 4 years. And I served with integrity and demonstrated the ability to collaborate and represent the best interest of this community. I will not be told what to do. I believe that the community is hungry for people who are honest, truthful, and trustworthy. I have come to know many of you personally. I will not compromise my principles for anything, not even for a seat on the City Council. So true transparency in our city means keeping you, the residents, informed of the choices we face and the outcomes, the results of what has been done. I am 9A on the ballot, and I'm asking for your vote and support on September 12th. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here this evening. My name is Hope Marable, and like so many of you assembled here in this room today, my parents were not born in this great city, but this is the place where they chose to settle down, to raise a family, my 4 sisters and myself. This is the place where they chose to build roots for me, to establish something for me, for them to build a community. Pardon me, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. What I'm trying to say is this. My parents were not born in this city like a lot of people here today. But this was a choice that they made, and they hung in there with this city throughout the years. For many years, my family has owned and operated a very successful business on 3rd Street and 5th Avenue during a time when people were afraid to navigate through that particular neighborhood on 5th Avenue and 3rd Street. We hung in there with Mount Vernon because of our sense of love for this city, because of our obligation, our dedication to its people. I was born here. I was raised in the city school district. More than that, I was raised in these beautiful churches. I played in the playgrounds. When I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York, the city was paved in gold. We can no longer say that. However, I do believe that we are on the verge of a new renaissance in this city. I feel it in the air, and I see it in this room. We know that we can do better, and people want to do better. We have to rebuild our community.
15 seconds.
We have to rebuild our community. We have populations amongst us that we're not honing in on. We're not honing in on, we have Brazilians that live here. We have Caribbeans. We have all sorts of populations, and we're not coming together to build our community, to make our community stronger, and that's what's holding us back. We're not sharing our resources, we're not sharing our intellect, we're not sharing our knowledge, our Rolodexes. Once we do that and come together as one, that's when we'll really be able to make this city what it used to be and what it still can be. And I graduated from Concordia College. I'm also a paralegal. I serve state and federal employees in regards to all sorts of things on a pro bono.
Candidate?
Okay.
Yes, please. I'm gonna reiterate, please, if we can stick to the time parameters so we can hear from everyone equally and get through the debate where we have cross-representation from all the candidates. Please, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight and giving us this opportunity to share our platforms and our views for our city. My name is Janice Duarte, and I am one of the Democratic endorsed candidates for City Council in the primary this September 12th. Over 50 years ago, my grandparents immigrated from Portugal, and Mount Vernon received them with open arms. A lifetime resident of Mount Vernon, I'm born and raised, live and work here. From humble beginnings, I am proud to say that I am the first in my family to graduate from college, and I graduated from Barnard College of Columbia University. Mount Vernon has been good to my family, and it has been good to me. My pact with you, as a daughter of Mount Vernon, is to draw on my deep love for our community, and to serve you with unyielding integrity, and to fight and defend what is right and fair for everyone. As your city councilwoman, I will draw on my management and communication skills from over 15 years of work experience, including vice president of a large global corporation. To reinvigorate the legislative process and to create new ways for the City Council to communicate its annual vision, mission, and agenda to the people. Inspired by best practices and evidence-based research, I want you to know that I do my research so that I can make informed decisions. For instance, I have presented studies to the City Council and to the Planning Board regarding the walk score to evaluate the services deficit that plagues all of our neighborhoods and negatively impacts our quality of life and property values. I've attended conferences to inform me, especially one in Detroit, about revitalizing downtown Detroit, to learn about their challenges and their approaches. My last comment. I'm committed to seeking solutions that are innovative and cost-effective and working with all stakeholders, including you, the public. I understand there are challenges, and I will work towards solutions that shape your future and our city with humility, integrity, and equity, because I believe we can work together and overcome our disagreements. Janice Duarte, 7A.
The question is, can we adjust the...
Are we able to turn that screen over so that the candidates can get a look at it while they go?
Just angle it a little bit?
There you go.
There you go.
There we go.
That's good. That's perfect.
Yeah, I think you can see it.
Okay, so that completes our introduction phase. The next phase will be questions presented to the candidates by the moderators. That first introduction round was 1 through 5, so we'll move now 2 through 1. Let's move ahead with our first question.
Okay. The order for the questions will be Clyde, number 2, Delia, number 3, Hope, number 4, Janice, number 5, and Marcus, number 1. All candidates will be responding to the same question. Should you eventually be elected to serve as a city council member for the city of Mount Vernon, how do you understand your role, and in what ways will you ensure that the city council is effective as it works with the offices of the mayor and controller?
Good question. As I said earlier on, I do understand the city charter. And if you take the time to take a look at it, you'll see the first chapter says that a city council person is responsible for the governance of our city and the management of its business. Also, it directs council people to ensure that the residents of this great city, health, welfare, and safety is protected. And that will be my guideline as to how I function as a city council person. What impact will I have? I believe it's driven by the charter itself. The charter speaks to certain areas within city government that falls under the supervision, for use of a better word, of the city council. I expect to work collaboratively with our mayor, taking information from him and information that we glean as a council, reviewing that information and making a decision based on the facts presented to me. I will not allow politics to come into that decision-making process. It will be done by a complete and thorough review of what issues come before me. And I believe that approach will ultimately work towards a better relationship between City Council and the Mayor's Department, and that's my objective. Thank you.
So the City Council is a 5-member body that has the role of doing legislation and ordinances for a city. In addition, the City Council has administrative oversight over all the departments in City Hall. So the mayor, as the executive, is in charge of appointing the commissioners and running the departments on an operational level, but on an administrative level, the City Council has oversight. And it primarily has oversight so that the City Council remains responsive to the community that elects it. The purpose of City Council is for the City Council to meet the needs of the community and to listen and respond. And I think that's crucial, that we should have a City Council that is responsive. So I believe that it's really important that we elevate the discourse and operate in a respectful way as locally elected officials in Mount Vernon. I believe that's really crucial if we are to represent ourselves well, not just to our community at large, but to the wider community, to the county, and particularly in the media. We can resolve issues without taking it to the public, the wider public, and I think that's really important, that we represent the community in a decent, respectful way. And that's the most crucial element of the City Council, I believe. So that's what I pledge to do, is to really elevate the discourse and to represent our city and our community
15 seconds.
with integrity. Because in going around, walking around and talking to the neighbors, what I know is this, that we have great people in Mount Vernon. And so what is reflected in the media is not an accurate reflection of who we are as a community. Thank you.
Hope?
Yes. As a member of your city council, I will focus on community outreach. I think that's paramount, and that's what's missing most within our city. The city council as it exists. Lately, I've seen them, trying certain little things and what have you, but they're not good at it because they haven't been doing it. And the only way that you're going to get better at it is for you to aggressively reach out to the people, have conversations with them, sit across the table from them, not just attend galas, cheese and grin for cameras with the citizens. I'm talking about really sitting down with the people and listening to them about what's important to them, what matters to them. So when you hold up your hand and vote yay or nay, you have the human condition in mind and not what's serving yourself in mind. That's the sort of city council member that I'm going to be. And that's what I'm going to emphasize as a member of your city council. You'll have my phone number. You'll be able to call me. If I'm asleep, I won't answer. But I'll tell you this much. I'm going to think about you when I'm not talking to you. You're going to be on my mind when I'm not seeing you, because I'm going to make it a priority to outreach to you, the citizens of this city, because that's what it's really all about. It's the representation of the people. It's not about representing ourselves in infighting at city council meetings when citizens want to come and talk about potholes, and the only thing that you hear is rhetoric about how lousy of a guy the mayor is or how lousy of a lady the comptroller is. We don't want to hear this. This has to end. We have to move our city forward, and the only way to do that is to put the people first.
So in my opening statement, one of the things I mentioned is that I look at best practices and evidence-based research. McKinsey is a research company, and they have a research article about exactly this point, citizen-centric focused approaches that government can take. And when a government or a municipality takes that approach, you find that the citizens are much more satisfied because we're addressing those concerns. You're addressing all of the quality of life issues that impact you day to day. And our policy and our operations and our methods of doing so are focused around you. Now, with that in mind, as a city council person, a member of 5, it's important that we all work together. As a body, we may have different perspectives, and we may disagree, and that's fine, because that's the intent. But ultimately, we have to come to a consensus, and we have to be able to arrive at a solution, whether it be through compromise or through some other form, but arrive at a solution that is in the best interest of the community. So one of the things I'd like to see the City Council do is come together and develop its annual agenda and its goals for the year, and communicate that publicly to you so that you are aware of what our position or our priorities are, so that we can engage and have that discussion, because those goals can change, and they should change as your needs change. Also, in terms of working with other departments and with the mayor's office, it's very important that we maintain an open dialogue, that we understand as city council members what the mayor's priorities are.
15 seconds.
Because he's also receiving information from you, not just us, but he's receiving information from you, and it's his job to be able to implement operationally how to address your concerns. So there has to be an open dialogue so that we can share that information and work together. Thank you.
So just keep in mind that I'm the only one here that's a city council member, so I quite have a different perspective, but all in the same and good heart for the public of Mount Vernon. The city council is a legislative body. We provide the ordinances and the resolutions to move the city forward. The council has a responsibility of the long-term goals of the city, and we also set the budget tone of the city. We are not the administrators of the city. We do not handle the day-to-day operations. And a lot of people seem to believe that the council works in City Hall on a day-to-day basis. But the council is as close to the public as you are, ladies and gentlemen. We go to work every day, and we walk back into our city at the end of the day, wondering what has gone on that day, just like you do. The council is the only body in the city that accepts your public comments on a regular basis. And when we hear those concerns, we take those concerns at a higher level to the administration and to the commissioners. And we try to resolve the issues that you have in your light. Because the administration is doing things on a day-to-day basis, and they can sometimes get into the muck of everything that's going on, and they don't see things clearly. So the city council is really the board of directors of the city. We kind of review everything that's going on and set the tone for the city. And we're going to continue to do that. I'm sure when any of these people on the panel get on the council, it's most definitely 3 of us will be on that new council. They will see also how difficult it is. I don't want people to believe that the city council just goes in and has quick meetings. We spend hours upon hours talking about what you people are concerned about, and we're concerned about it as well. Just today, I took a report of an issue that was going on in somebody's street. So I'm going to make sure I go out there and relay to the commissioners that issue and see how we can resolve
15
it.
seconds.
And most importantly, we set the budget for the subsequent year. And that's really a high priority to figure out where your tax dollars is going to go in the new year. And I take that role very seriously. Thank you.
The second question is actually a multi-tiered question. It's important that you answer the first part of the question and then you can expound on the latter part. And the order for this question is Delia, number 3, Hope, Janice, Marcus, and Clyde. Here's the question. A pilot is a payment in lieu of taxes that is offered to developers. On this issue, there are some that believe any development is good for a city, and there are others who believe that choosing the right development is what is good for a city. Which do you believe? And do you support residential pilots? Why or why not?
So I am very firm that I believe the right development is what is good for the city. And by right, that right is going to be decided by community input, most importantly. It is going to be all the information about the pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, will be provided to the community, not after decisions are made or pilots have been issued. And by the way, the City Council does not issue pilots, as we know. The pilots are issued by the IDA, which is an agency that's run by the mayor of the city. So pilots are not decided by the City Council. That's the first thing. But I'll tell you what my opinions are on pilots. I believe that we need to have greater transparency as to who are getting pilots, how much, and the extent of the pilots. I think that there should be a repository, some kind of database that's accessible to the public that tells us all the stages, where all the different stages of the pilots are, so we can know. Right now, the city has about $2.4 million net in pilots. That's which is about almost 1% or 2% of the budget. And one of the things why pilots are given is that it's meant to encourage economic development. It's meant to promote jobs in the city that's assigning the pilots, awarding the pilots. And that's something we need a process to ensure that if we are allowing pilots for developers, that the city is getting value, great value, for the pilots that's being offered, and that the city is not left feeling shafted, that they have been, have the short end of the stick because pilots have been awarded and the city does not get any true benefits.
One of the reasons why we want to have this debate is because we want clarity on the responses. So, taking liberty here, do you or do you not support residential pilots?
Residential pilots, you mean for large-scale residential? Again, I'm going to say the same thing. I do not want. I think that we have to be careful about changing zoning, the zoning, to allow large residential buildings in places where they were not originally. I think we have to be mindful of the variances. No. The answer is, it's a nuanced answer, because I guess it depends on where.
Okay, thank you.
It depends on where.
For the benefit of everyone, we want to make sure that we have clarity on the responses, right? So there was an opportunity. The time has expired.
We have all the buildings that could be placed in.
Okay, it's all right. Let's move to the next question. No, the next. Hope, yes. Next candidate.
In regard to pilot programs, payment in lieu of taxes, I believe that it has taken on the appearance of a hustle. I'm not sure that we know which end the hustle is on. Maybe our city council has been bamboozled repeatedly, by investors. I'm not sure. I don't know. I know when I'll get there, and when I get there, we'll all know. I can assure you of that. I'm not against residential pilots. If we can, if corporations can get pilots, why can't residents get pilots? That when you're speaking of residential pilots, it's not just buildings. We're talking about homeowners too. Homeowners can also take advantage of pilot programs. And so, no, I'm not against that. The pilot process, it's very complex. It is overseen by the IDA, the Industrial Development Agency, which is based on a state act, okay? And as I said, it's complex. I don't know a whole lot about it. I don't know how these same developers are allowed to repeatedly buy up, and pay about, $20,000 a year in taxes, when you got homeowners that are paying about $20,000 a year in taxes. Somehow, some way, we have got to get down to the bottom of this mess. And I'll say this, we have to do an overview of it all. We have to reassess. I'm not saying that the council or the mayor's office or the controller's office has behaved clandestinely. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we perhaps have been victimized as a city that is predominantly black. We have to accept that as a whole. I don't care whether you're in Fleetwood, whether you're in the Mount Vernon section, the Heights section. We are impacted by race in this city, and we all have to come together to attack it as a community.
So with regards to pilots, yes, the pilots are intended to encourage economic development in the city. Originally, they were meant for commercial purposes and not necessarily residential. In the case that in the trends that we're seeing now, we're seeing a lot of movement towards mixed use development, which includes residential. We have to work towards updating our master plan so that we really do have a full understanding of what the vision is for the city, so that we can prioritize where we want development to be, what kind of development do we want in those areas. And it's not just one building at a time. We need to look at neighborhoods. We need to start looking at how do we build community and allow those neighborhoods to flourish. We have so many neighborhoods that have services deficits, meaning that they have to go out of the city to get basic services and take care of their needs. Nothing is within walking distance. So we need to start changing the way we look at our city and how our neighborhoods currently exist and how we can help our neighborhoods grow and develop, not just for the residences that are there, but develop economically, so that the investments that are made dynamically. We don't want to just build a building and it's over. We want that building to continue to provide a dynamic substance for that neighborhood. So it's
15 seconds.
I guess it's a mixed answer. I would want pilots to be used in a way that encourages development, but encourages smart development based on a set of priorities and principles that have been defined.
So, thank you, everybody. Now, you all know this is my field, and I've done a lot with the pilots, or at least the concept of pilots. As was previously stated, the City Council doesn't have the due diligence to actually approve or reject pilots. the council does have the strength to negotiate what zoning will be. And oftentimes when we are looking at a rezone, a developer may come in and mention that he or she wants to have a certain pilot. And we use our strength on the council to adjust that zone accordingly if we feel that what that developer is asking for and where their funding source is from is good for the city or not. And we've done that in the past. I will like to say that homeowners cannot take advantage of pilots, and that's the unfortunate thing. If you are a homeowner, if you have a house and you're paying $15,000, whether you are there or not, that is what you are going to pay. That is the assessment. Mount Vernon's problem is that we have a lot of warehouses and storefronts that are empty. And the one way to get and spur on the economics of our city is to entice developers to come in. And they do that through the IDA via pilots. I will say that there are good pilots and there are bad pilots. There are pilots that are put in for finances because developers want stability in their financing also. So it becomes an economic tool for the banks that are funding these developments to smooth out their funding. It's kind of like a fixed rate mortgage, if you will. I also want to say, like I was saying, there are good pilots and there are bad pilots. And I think we've seen a few bad pilots in our city, but it's not only about the economic benefit for it. A lot of times new buildings inject new economic spurring on in a district. And we've seen that as well. Thank you.
No, we're structuring the rebuttals. If anybody mentions you direct, that wouldn't.
Okay, but
They did all say this.
Am I in favor of pilots? Yes, I am. There were some comments made about they're being done secretly. That's not true. It's a state mandated agency. And the state law says that an annual report must be submitted to the mayor for his review and approval. You, through freedom of information, can get a copy of that report if you so desire. And there's something else you need to know about pilots. When they say payment in lieu of taxes, what they're referring to is that the assessor makes an initial value statement as to what this new development would cost, all right? And what the tax levy would be if this building did not have a tax break. So all it is. And then what the IDA does is decides how much tax relief will they get based on what they call future benefit. Now that future benefit is determined by how many people will live in that residence. Because what that building will do for the local community is spur on local businesses. Because those people who live in them buildings are gonna shop locally. So they look to that tax revenue and they put a dollar figure on that tax revenue, and then the assessor decides how much of a discount on their tax bill will they receive over a 10, 20, 30-year period. That's all the pilot does. Now, let me just mention something else. The IDA consists of 5 members, and the mayor is one, and the controller is another that's mandated to be part of that board. The city council, as Mark has said to you, is not involved. And I don't think that's fair.
15 seconds.
If we're the voice of the community, then we should be on the IDA board so that we can share our concerns that all of you bring to us. Thank you.
Okay, before we move to our next round of questions, I just want to encourage, does anybody here have a question that they want to put on an index card before we move on? 1, 2, 3, so if we can get some more cards. All right, let's move to the second round.
Okay. The next question is about Memorial Field. We're going to start with Hope, and then we'll go to Janice, and then to Marcus, and then to Clyde, and then to Delia. All right. Memorial Field has been a contentious issue for decades. County and city taxpayers have already spent $6 million of a pledged $12.7 million project to build a new Memorial Field with 8-track lanes. The current mayor has pitched a plan for a $120 million, 15,000-seat stadium with retractable roof. Others call for repair of the current seat structure. What is your understanding of the current status of Memorial Field, and what plans do you support for a new Memorial Field?
I actually support the mayor's plan, to be honest with you. I think that it's important for us to have that because we want the field to bring in revenue. You've spoken of some really big money just now that's already been put into the project. So what we really have to focus on is how we're going to survive once that field is built and all of that money is extended. So I'm for the mayor's plan for Memorial Field. Repair, I mean, first of all, those benches, I'm sure they're not to code, they're antiquated. Why would you want to repair that? You want to rip them out and build something new. And I think that we should build up. That tennis court is very intrusive. I think it should be broken down. Listen, I know that it takes money to pay for that. I think it should be broken down. I think that we should build up in regard to Memorial Field, and we should put that tennis area on a different floor, perhaps the second floor, so that we'll have more room on the field itself, so that we can fill it with hundreds of people and bring in millions of dollars and trillions of dollars within the next 40 years, because we need it. And that's how I feel about that.
Okay, so my understanding of Memorial Field is that, yes, we have spent about $5 or $6 million. I believe my understanding was 5. But in any event, we still have about $6.9 million from county funds that have been promised. My understanding is that there are monies in reserve from 2015 that are still available, and there are still monies from a bond that was issued, I believe it's 1.7 million, that are still available. So that being said, we also have to recognize that Memorial Field project is an intermunicipal agreement between the city and the county. So at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're having conversations with the county, with our council, and with our mayor. Because it's collaboratively that we're going to arrive at a solution and a sequence of steps that are necessary to get Memorial Field to a place that serves the community and serves the city. So in regards to the mayor's plan, I think it's important to dream big. Is it feasible? Are we going to get there? I don't have the answer to that. But what I'd like to do is sit down with the mayor and understand what his priorities are for the stadium. Break it down so that it's not just one big, what's the big picture? We have the big picture. We want, a large stadium that seats X number of people with a retractable roof. But if we break that down to what are the elements that are most important, and to understand what those are from his perspective and from his vision.
15 seconds.
And then working collaboratively with all the stakeholders that I just mentioned, we can work our way to that point, to that end goal. So as I said, I am all open to dreaming big, but sitting down and discussing all of the breakdowns of those points to get to a solution. Thank you.
Marcus Griffin?
Thank you. I'm just going to take about 15 seconds to explain something I didn't get to explain on the pilots. One concern that we have on the council and on the Board of Estimate as well, that there's tax certiorieries. And I know folks have heard that name called before, but that is when a business owner asks the city to refund them taxes that they didn't, that they shouldn't have paid over previous years. And we have situations where businesses come back or buildings come back and get hundreds of thousands of dollars back. Once you see those tax certiorieries, you really begin to look at those empty warehouses differently. If you have to pay $15,000, no matter whether you're in your house or not, these businesses are able to get their money back, and that is a very high concern. That's why we look forward to new development and getting things spurred on. As far as Memorial Field is concerned, I've spent many hours, many days working on this. When I was on the county planning board, I I lobbied the county to give us that $10 million. At the same time, I was on the city council. I literally voted twice in one day to get the $10 million for Memorial Field. I've supported Clinton Young with his plan for the field, and I supported Ernie Davis with his plan for the field. I am a firm believer that the field should be returned to the people of Mount Vernon. It should not be a closed-up field that you can only get into if you have to pay a $50 fine or a $50 ticket. I believe that 15,000 people is way too many people to have down on Sanford Boulevard when you combine that with Target and the Best Buy, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that our field should be a maximum of 2,000 people, maybe 4,000 people during special events, and it should be a field that you can be able to walk around the track, meet your friends, have the guys running up doing their cardio up the stands, a field that is open to everybody to go to. Memorial Field is called Memorial Field because it's a field. It is not called Memorial Stadium. We are prohibited. We cannot put a roof over Memorial Field because it was given to us to keep as an open field. We need to do the basic thing for Memorial Field, get it back open for the taxpayers in Mount Vernon.
Just to be clear, does that mean that you support raising the structure now and redoing it, or you support repairing the current structure? Just to be clear on the answer.
I am clear that we should, whatever we do, whether we tear it down, repair the stands, we had plans for that, or take them down, the field should have no more than 2,000 to 4,000 people at that field. We do not have enough parking. If the neighbors of Oakwood Heights wants a nightmare in their community, go ahead and put up 15,000 people down there. The Hutchinson River Parkway will be tied up for hours. You won't be able to get home.
It never was. I'm going to ask that members in the audience keep your comments to yourself. We have a robust process in place. We're hearing from the candidates, and later on we will hear from the audience. So please, let's maintain decorum and order and mutual respect. Thank you.
I understand the first part of the question was my understanding of Memorial Field. It's a political football, and it's been kicked around for 25 years. I said that in my opening statement. Myself and Mayor Blackwood started this project, still not completed. I think Ms. Duarte hit on a very good point that I'd like to expound on. It takes our county legislator, our mayor, our city council, and you screaming and hollering louder than you ever did for us to get this project done. And I hope if I'm elected to city council, that in the 4 years that I serve, this project will be completed. Thank you.
So just to be clear, Ms. Isley, do you support one of the plans, whether it is to repair or redo or a stadium plan?
I support a collaborative approach to solving the problem. That's what I support. And that's as far as I could go, because I'm not a council person. I don't have the historical data to take a position one way or the other. But I'm talking as a citizen now, and from what I've seen over the last 25 years, apparently we need to put all of the stakeholders at the same table and not let them leave until a solution has been reached.
Delia for Carson.
So, how many in this room are clear about how much has been spent on Memorial Field and what's left in the budget for Memorial Field? Show of hands. Are you clear? No, there has been money spent. There was money spent supposedly to remove the stands, but the stands are still there. And so the question becomes, how do we have a full understanding of what's happening there, how much has been spent, and what the plan is? So I think the plan to put a $120 million stadium is, I think, a long-term plan. For me, it's about using the budget that exists, whatever is remaining, developing a practical plan, especially seeing that the city has bonded for, I believe, about $3 million to put into Memorial Field. Developing a practical plan that puts Memorial Field back into play. That can be done within the budget. And it does not preclude us from planning to have greater improvement at some time in the future. It does not preclude us. So it's not either or. I think right now what we need to do is to develop a plan using money that is here to remediate Memorial Field. There's been talk that it had asbestos. If that's so, then that needs to be remediated. But putting the plan in place so that the level of wellness in this community can be restored. There are many people who are not able to exercise, to walk, to enjoy the green space that exists at Memorial Field because it's been locked since 2008. That's unreasonable.
15 seconds.
That our children are denied access to this awesome space because, you know, political ramblings, contaminated soil, whatever it is.
Time.
Let's work together to figure it out.
Okay, several of the candidates already touched upon my question, so let's delve into it a little deeper. The Journal News exposed the depth of the rift and the division between the executive branch and the rest of the City Hall. As a council person, what is your opinion as to what needs to be done to change this? We're going to start with Janice first.
I think one of the things, as I had said earlier in some of my remarks, I think it's important that we sit down and understand our priorities and our goals. And because that is going to be driving and guiding us. If we don't have a basis or a foundation to start from, it makes the conversation difficult, especially when we get lost in the details. So I think it's very important that we're able to take a step back, look at the big picture, and work towards that. I believe we need to respect each other. I believe we need to find better ways to resolve our disagreements. And we all say that we love this city. We need to show that love to each other. So my promise to you is to provide just that. From the beginning of my campaign, I defined core values. Values of humility, integrity, respect, love, honesty. These are the core values that drive me and are the foundation of my campaign and why I'm running. And it's with that that I will take with me to the City Council, because we have to understand there are challenges that everyone is dealing with, whatever department you're in, wherever you're coming from, whatever challenges there are. But if we don't take a step back and look at the big picture and understand where we're trying to go, we can end up stalling ourselves and getting lost in the details.
15 seconds.
So I started my campaign with a set of core values. I am committed to serving you based on those core values. And that's how I would approach any of my interactions with the city government.
Thank you. Marcus, as the incumbent at the table, the only one here, your question is slightly different. What was your biggest, and no one else can answer this, what was your biggest frustration on the council regarding this question, and what would you do now differently if we re-elected?
Do you mean in regards to the Journal News article?
No, just in general, the division that's been going on in City Hall between the executive branch and the rest of you guys.
Well, back to the Journal News piece. I read it in its entirety, and the Journal News did two things. They gave us a snapshot of what we look like. The Journal News's job is to sell newspapers. Did you guys know that that was the top-selling week for the Journal News in years? This county loves to make fun of Mount Vernon and see us in chaos. And they did it very well. I will say they did highlight some of the negative things that were going on. I will say that the council really didn't have any criticism with that article if you read it closely. They did talk about some divisions and some disagreements, but disagreements are fine. Council members are supposed to disagree and come to some kind of resolution. That's what we did. If you've read it clearly, and you read all of the electronic portions of what the Journal News did, there was a lot of good things about our city. They brought up a lot of people that have moved on or passed on that were very influential. If you look at the mural that they painted of us, it's very respectful. It was actually a keepsake. That newspaper not only sold papers on the day they came out, people went back and wanted the archives of that newspaper as well, because Mount Vernon has a strong history of people who came here, maybe moved on, but they absolutely love this city. So, and I also want to say one more thing about Memorial Field that I want to comfort everybody on. Every penny of Memorial Field financing is accounted for. There's no question. I've researched it. I've worked with Commissioner Morton about it. I've worked with the controller about it. I'm going to say it again. Every single penny that was spent on Memorial Field is accounted for. Money was not wasted. There is no longer asbestos at Memorial Field either. So I used to work for the Journal News. I used to deliver papers. It was my first job. I criticize the journalists that come before us, and I school them on the good things about the city of Mount Vernon, and I make sure that they highlight what's best about our city. Thank you.
It's wonderful that we can have that strength-based perspective on the article. What we also know is that that article generated a lot of anxiety in our community. And it was just one of many, because the way we're represented in the media indicates that we do not have cohesion, that our city is not working in a respectful way. We've seen news articles that caused us to feel embarrassment. And so what I pledge to do is to always conduct myself with respect. And it is really important that our local elected leaders do that, because they're representing us. And I think that's critical, because perception is reality. And we want to feel proud of this place that we call home. It's a wonderful city. It's got a lot of great attributes, and our strongest resource are our people. And so we would like to have, I know I would like to see, local elected leaders that make us feel proud. So I think it's really important that we pledge to conduct ourselves with integrity, with honesty, with transparency and openness, so that folks do not have to, because there was a sage in this community that says, nature abhors a vacuum. And so when we don't know, we make it up. And so it's really important to have full information, to have open dialogue, to have the information shared with the community in a way that they feel involved in the decision-making process. And that's what I pledge to do. I pledge to keep this community informed. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Clyde, you were supposed to go next. Now it's Clyde and then Hope.
I've watched for quite some time now this rift between the mayor's office and city council. And after reading the city charter that speaks to the city of Mount Vernon, I found that the charter clearly defines duties and responsibilities between the mayor's office and city council. But I'm beginning to believe that people need to revisit the charter to understand clearly what they have been elected to do. And if they do that, and they do it as adults, I don't think we'll have any more of these rifts. It's important, as we said earlier on, both the mayor's office and city council must learn how to collaborate with each other. We've been placed there to care for the welfare of our residents. They didn't put us there to have personality clashes and allow them to become public. And I think we just need to remind ourselves as councilmen and as the mayor of our great city that we have responsibilities, we should focus on those, and get the issues resolved as you have asked us to do. I believe that my professional experience will help us move in that direction, and I will work very diligently to try and bridge any difference I may have with our mayor. And that's what I intend to do. Thank you very much.
As distressing as the article was, you must admit it was practically spot on, wouldn't you say? We go to the city council meetings. We see what goes on, okay? We had a great event not that long ago. The circus came to town. And I'm telling you, when you go to those city council meetings, you kind of wish that a lot of those folks had left with the circus. And it's vexating, it's distressing, and it's just stupid. It's just really, really disconcerting to attend these city council meetings and see our dirty laundry paraded for all of Westchester County to see. I didn't even have Channel News 12 because I had Fios. I just switched back to Time Warner Cable. But that did not stop my phone from ringing, from people from Yonkers, from White Plains, from the Bronx, asking me, what is going on out there? What is wrong with Mount Vernon? What's wrong with your people? I want to throw my hands up and go, well, gee, I don't know, because I don't understand it. We're here to serve. This is public service. And I'm going to say that again. This is public service. We are here to serve people, not serve ourselves, and not settle personal beefs that we may have with one another. All of that is supposed to go out of the window when you sit down at that table and negotiate the things that impact these citizens on a daily basis. Now, I have a friendlier relationship with Marcus Griffith.
15
and
seconds.
I gotta tell you, I don't care what I disagree with when it comes, I don't care what disagreement you and I have, Marcus, we always respect one another. And that's the way that I'm going to conduct myself as a city council member. I'm going to respect the other city council members. I'm going to respect my controller. I'm going to respect my mayor, because if I don't respect it, why would I expect for the Journal News to respect it? Or Westchester County to respect it? And we have got to get back there. How did it evolve into this? Well, we are the have-nots and they are the haves. That's not the Mount Vernon that I grew up in. That's not the Mount Vernon that I know. And that's not the way that we really are. We have to show Westchester County what we really are.
My name was mentioned. I want to just.
Okay, under the rules. Do we have an attorney or not? So under the rules, we're looking at a 1-minute rebuttal.
Okay, right. I just want to.
Is this mic on?
Is my mic on? I just want to publicly accept the endorsement from Hope Marigold for saying. Thank you, Hope. God bless you.
There are no rules for rebuttal to rebuttal. All right, we're going to move to another phase. This was our first round of moderators of our committee. Can we give them a full round of applause? We have a diverse team here. You know, we got it going on here. All right, so we're going to swap them out and bring 3 additional committee members in to present the questions from the audience. So one more round of applause for our moderators. Coming to the table, we have now Christine Gibson. Come on, y'all. Andre Butler. And Mary Grace Coletti. Come on, people, you can do better. This is your Mount Vernon community. Let's start them up. They will be presenting the questions from the audience, and so we're going to move on. Now, the last round, I believe, was 5-1, correct? The last person that spoke was Hope?
Yes.
Okay. So then we're gonna go to 5-1. Okay, so.
This is all set up for project stuff. This is our 10. We don't need it. You gotta be from the projects.
Good evening, candidates. Good evening, candidates. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Good evening, yes.
Your mic is on. Turn it on, turn it on. That's it.
This is all for outside campus. All of this is for outside campus. This ain't for nothing else.
Good evening.
That's why
Okay, how's that? Good evening, candidates. This is a joint statement from the department, from Detective Brent Gamble, President, Mount Vernon PBA, and Kevin Holt, President, Uniform Firefighters Association, Local 107. And this question is for all the candidates. As presidents of the Mount Vernon Police Benevolent Association and the Uniformed Firefighters Association, Local 107 respectively, we firmly support any legislation that enhances the strengthening of our ability to provide public safety for the people of Mount Vernon. In February of 2017, the police department and the fire department submitted requests for investments in public safety, including additional staffing, equipment, and fire inspectors. The current city council has refused to act. Our question to the candidates: the police and the fire unions want to know, if you are elected to the city council, will you support investments in public safety? Will you fund a police commissioner? Will you give the departments the manpower they need?
So the sequence on this is 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll start with Janice.
I started last time.
You started last time.
We're back to 1.
It's back to 1. Okay. So then that would be Marcus.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know both of these gentlemen, and I know a number of firemen and police officers, and we absolutely support them. The first thing that we did on the council this year was make sure that their contracts were renewed, and we made sure that our firefighters had a renewal in their contract that was respectable. The reality for Mount Vernon is that police officers, firefighters come to Mount Vernon, get their training, and then they get out. And we can't have that anymore. We need to train our men and women coming onto the forces, and we need to keep them here. So what the council did, along with the controller, I was chair of finance and planning at the time, made sure that when we finalized their contracts, we gave them the right bump up to get them to stay. So that's first. In regards to the staffing, that's the answer for that. We want to make sure that we aren't bringing in new people that are untrained, training them, and they leave. As far as the police commissioner, the city council knows well that the amount of money that is allocated in the budget for the police commissioner may not be enough. So what we did was we zeroed out the line and we moved the funds to the contingency fund to allow the mayor the availability to go out and find a commissioner at whatever price it may be, and then when the mayor comes back and says, I found John Smith, we need to pay him $185, the council will absolutely reallocate those monies from contingency to the police commissioner. There is no way possible that this council would not fund a police commissioner. We are waiting for the mayor to appoint. There was a committee that was put together. I gotta rush it. There was a committee that was put together. They have not completed that search. And as far as investment, we do not fund investments of equipment through your annual budget. You do it through capital projects. And the Capital Projects Board is put together by the administration. When that board is put together, we will review it, and the council will allocate money that will go out to bond for each one of you. And we are concerned about the debt service on that bonding. So you do not buy equipment through your annual budget. You do it through capital projects. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Eisen?
You're open. you a problem.
Hello?
Yes.
As a former police executive, I certainly would support the investment in equipment, in staffing, and in the police commissioner once our mayor finds one. I've walked this street campaigning for a city council person. I've seen how closely packed our housing stock is. I've followed the crime rates in this city very closely as well. I believe strongly in having the adequate force to protect us from fire and from crime. So if I become a city council person, the police officers and the firemen here in Mount Vernon could rest assured that I will be there to see to it that they get whatever equipment, training that they possibly need. And I think it's the right thing for us to do as a city. Thank you.
So public safety is absolutely tied to the level of wellness in a community. And we know, based on the experiences that we've had in this community, that it's an area of concern. And so I absolutely support any legislation that's going to enhance public safety. I also believe that public safety is not just a policing matter, that there should be a public health approach to public safety in Mount Vernon, meaning that all the departments are working together to focus on this issue of public safety. Because what we know is that if our young people are not proactively engaged, that they will, get caught up, involved in juvenile delinquency, which impacts our public safety in the community. As co-convener of My Brother's Keeper here in Mount Vernon with Francis Wynn, what we did back in October of 2016 was that we declared community violence as a public health crisis in Mount Vernon. So I understand that our police officers and all our safety officers need the support in order to keep the level of wellness, the level of safety in our community high. So, like the sitting councilperson explained, that that the way it's funded is through capital budgeting. It's really important that our safety officers have all the equipment that they need to effectively perform on their jobs. And we must support that. That's critical for any community, is public safety. So I think that we must support professional development so that our officers are always engaged in the latest technology and the latest training.
Okay, I just have a funny feeling that there's more than one side to this, because the two gentlemen that asked the question, Detective Gamble, Mr. Holt, I'm sure they're well aware of where the funding is coming from. You know, I'm sure they're well versed on that. I think that Mr. Holt is the president of the union or something for the fire department, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, exactly. So clearly there's a little bit more going on, and I'm going to say this: yes, I would absolutely support the funding of a commissioner, and yes, I would absolutely support the fire department getting the equipment that they need. It's, pardon me, there was two parts to your question, correct? I'm like can you rephrase it for me, please?
It was support investments in public safety.
Right.
Fund police commissioner, and would you give departments the manpower they need?
Yes, absolutely. We do need more manpower. What we don't want in this city is, we don't want violence, crime to be contained on one side of town, and we don't want it to spread to the other side of town, which can happen. And so we do need the manpower. We do need the funding for a commissioner. I don't know why anyone would think that we wouldn't need the funding for a police commissioner. And I can understand why this issue is still on the table. Whatever needs to be done to get it done needs to be done. It sounds like there's a little bit of political wrangling going on with it. And especially because of the way that the question was postured, I believe that there's just a little bit more to it. And it's not my expertise, this area, but I would like to get a little bit more information, and I would like to know how we as city council members can come together to see to it that these people do get the funding that they need, ultimately. Janice?
So yes, I would definitely support the funding for a police commissioner. It's very important that we have strong leadership in our police department, so that would be a priority. This past week, I actually launched a social media campaign, and safety was the theme of the week, because I believe it is the cornerstone of having good quality of life and a vibrant economy. If we don't have a safe environment and safe communities, we can't expect our children to be able to flourish, the businesses be able to open and conduct themselves, and the residents to feel safe in their neighborhood. So it's an absolute priority and challenge that we face today. So yes, I would fund having a strong leadership and the police commissioner. I would want to look at some of the data. We need the top of the police department to be able to tell us, city council members, what the needs of the community are. And they have already stated that in terms of the number of staff that they need, but I personally would want to know more information. I want them to give me a better understanding of why that amount of staff is what's appropriate to deal with the challenges we have now. That being said, I would support investing in training, any programs that would support reducing risk in our communities, addressing, well, the training has actually two components. It's for one, to keep all of our staff safe, but also allow them to continue their professional development so that we can adopt new technologies to help us with the policing and fire.
Time.
But to give all of us a better sense of public safety. Thank you.
Thank you. And so now a follow-up to that is it's 2018. We have a new city council. We have a police commissioner. We have the equipment. How do we now get the community to feel safe? How do we stem the violence? And how do we move forward so that Mount Vernon is no longer considered the violent city that it is within Westchester? We start with Mr. Isley, please.
Thank you. As a former police executive here in the city of Mount Vernon, I've been waiting for this question all night long. I brought community policing to this city. And what community policing tries to establish is a closer relationship between the police department and the community at large. We're a city of about 70,000 individuals right now, and we have a police department of 200. And at any given time, these numbers fluctuate somewhat, but at any given time, there's 10 police officers on duty, maybe. If you believe 10 officers are going to keep you safe, then you're sadly mistaken.
It used to.
The only way that you are going to keep yourself safe is by you having a closer relationship with your police department, where you know that you can call them and you can report a crime or some suspicious acts on the part of other residents of this city, and your police department will respond to it, investigate it, and reach a reasonable conclusion. And I think this is what we all look for from our police department. You also should be able to walk by an officer when they're on foot patrol and say hello, and that officer answers you back with a hello. We don't do that now. They ride by us in their police cars. We don't make the effort to establish a relationship with them, but yet we expect them to keep us safe. We can't do that. We must come together, 70,000 of us, and I know it's thinking idealistically, But if we want to be safer than what we are, we have to work harder at supporting our police. So I, as a council person, would push the city or gently move the city back to adopting the community policing approach to how we police ourselves. There's still remnants of it now. There's our field training officers who teach the new rookies to get out and talk to the community. And then we had, 2 weeks ago, the graduation of a cadet program for our 12, 13, 14-year-olds who learn now to call police officers their big brothers. And that's what I'd like to see done here in Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Number 3, Delia. So I mentioned before about a public health approach to community violence. And the CDC does have a lot of research on this, and it's used in many communities. And what it essentially says is that we have all the different entities in the community, the church, the civic organizations, the city, the police department, the school district, working together to make sure that the risk factors that place children or young people in the street is eliminated or reduced. We want to have recreational resources where children have a place to go that's safe. We want to make sure that children are learning to read, because a lot of the folks who end up in the juvenile justice system in the prisons have reading challenges, did not learn to read. We want to address the mental health issue that affects our community, because many folks who run afoul of the law and end up in contact with the juvenile justice system are folks with mental health conditions. And so this is the comprehensive approach that's required to make sure that we can elevate the level of safety. So we want to have a public health approach. It's really an important consideration, because we have many faith-based groups. Can they do more to reach out to community, to the young people? Can they do more? I submit to you that they can. And so how do we work more collaboratively together? How do we marshal the resources that exist in this community? A third of our population are 18 or under. So how do we make sure that we are providing and increasing the level of wellness for the young people? I think that's crucial if we want to have a safe community. We have to work together towards a public health approach. And we don't have to reinvent it, because the data, the information exists. Veto violence on the CDC website. Thank you. Thank you. Hope.
Well, I don't think it's a secret to any of us in this room. We truly need to enhance recreational activities within our city. More than that, we have to hone in on a lot of the qualities that we do still possess. We still have a lot of corporations that exist in this city. We need to strengthen our relationship with these business owners and try to convince them to mentor our children. The churches, that's good too, but our children want to be economically empowered. Believe it or not, that is very important to them. A lot of them are very confused about how they're going to be able to take care of themselves as they emerge into a young adulthood, because the opportunities are almost non-existent. If we can't get these people to hire them, at least we can get them to mentor them, to train them, to navigate them into the workplace. While we're developing ourselves here, they can go into other communities and work and come home and spend their money. If they're economically empowered, it will make a big difference in their lives. I know when I was a young girl, I used to be a literacy volunteer at the Mount Vernon, New York Public Library. And so I am very much aware of the fact that illiteracy, it does play a huge factor in, in the outcome in regards to crime and things of that nature. Sorry, we're at the club. But I'll say this is what we have to hone in on. We have to hone in the things that we still have. We still have a nice, strong business leadership in this city. We have to strengthen that relationship. We have to up the ante on recreation. We have to provide opportunities for our children. We have to mentor our children, even if we have to do workshops periodically. Some of the parents need mentoring. We have to do it. We have to work together as a community. Again, it's about community outreach. That's what's going to strengthen us, and that's what's going to make us feel safe. A lot of the police officers do not live in this city. That's not a bad thing.
Candidate?
It's not a bad thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I could go on and on about this. Sorry.
Thank you. Janice?
I think the approach or the theme that really resonates through most of the comments that have been made is a stacking of partnerships. It's all about partnering with the assets and leveraging the organizations and the efforts that are currently happening in our city. So one thing that I would like to see, or that I know currently happens, the Youth Bureau, I serve on the Youth Bureau board. The Youth Bureau serves over 6,000 youth a year. We provide after-school programs and we try to address at-risk students, ultimately with the goal of preparing them for the workforce. And when we're talking about how are we going to make our city safe again, we need to think about all of the institutions that we can partner with. We have WCC Mount Vernon Extension on South Fifth Avenue. We have the city school district that is investing in a vocational program. So we need to continue to support these efforts, help connect the dots, connect the partnerships that are, the organizations that are there, and stack these partnerships, because as we stack, we continue to add a layer of support for our youth and provide training. WCC and JP Morgan did a SUNY's middle skills gap or skills gap study last year, and they found that there is a widening gap of middle skills in the lower Hudson Valley. That affects our employment rate here in the city, not just for our youth, but those that are adults that are currently unemployed. We need to look at the programs that we currently have, provide the wraparound services that are needed in order to retrain those adults that need it. Also, I attend seminars, and I recently attended one with Eric Gonzalez, the Kings County DA. And he has some very innovative programs to deal with policing, reducing recidivism with our youth, and partnering with even the local clergy to do so. And I think looking at programs that are effective elsewhere and partnering with those entities here like the DA, the county DA, are imperative for us to continue to make our city safe.
Thank you. Marcus? Do I have the same question, or you all gonna?
Yeah.
Same question, all right. I think the question was, if we had everything in place, our officers were happy with their pay, we had the capital projects in place, what more could we do? Even without that stuff in place, what we need to do is stop beating up on ourselves in Mount Vernon. We have a great community with great homes. We have the best housing infrastructure anywhere in the county. We have the best people. We have more talent mile for mile than any place else. There's no question in the world. We like to beat up on ourselves. I was watching the news the other day and I've heard about this murder that went on up in Pound Ridge. They didn't say Pound Ridge. They said Westchester. But I guarantee you, if there's a murder in Mount Vernon, boom! Murder in Mount Vernon, and we have to stop allowing that to happen. I take the news to task. When Shamoya McKenzie was killed in the car, the first thing I did was look in those reporters' faces and say, you had better not discredit this community, because this was a young lady who was just innocently passing by. You saw me, I was almost in tears when that was going on. We don't have major things going on. Most of our community are good, hard-working people. We may be struggling a little bit here and there, but that's the heart of Mount Vernon. Our Youth Bureau does a good job. Our churches do a great job. I sit on the Westchester Municipal Officials Association. They just put me on the executive board. I guess they had to, because I kept showing up at the meetings to learn what other communities' problems are. They have the same problems we do. Their infrastructure is falling apart because it was all put in around the same time in the 1930s. They have the same sewer problems that we do. They have the same tax certiorari problems that we do. So we like to always think that we're in the worst place in old Mount Vernon, but I guarantee you, if I had an opportunity to move any place else, the place where I would want to be is right here with my people, understanding their struggles. I don't want to be in a place where everybody's happy and everybody's an attorney and a doctor. I want to be around people that are hardworking, God-fearing, honest people. And I would love to be able to help some folks every once in a while. You don't want to be in a community where you can't help anybody. Everybody's just loving it and they're bragging and they're going off to wherever. I like a community where I could be on boards. I'm on the board of the Mount Vernon Daycare Center. When you see the mothers that are struggling to try to find a job and they can't find any place to put their children and they don't have affordable student care, child care in the meantime, I enjoy working with that center. I enjoy being on the board of YCOP. And I do it for free and I don't brag about it. I just get it done because that's the community that we're in. And we need to continue to be that. I know most people in Mount Vernon are like that. We've been walking the streets, meeting people, and people are good-hearted people. We're going to continue to do what we need to do to make Mount Vernon the best place that it already is. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, this next round of questions were taken from a pool of questions that were given to us by you, the citizenry. We could not put all of the questions on to the candidates because we were running out of time. So we chose some questions. For those of you who we weren't able to reach, we're sorry, but we chose what we could choose with the time we had.
This question is for Delia. What do you plan to do to increase economic diversity in Mount Vernon? So I think to increase economic diversity in Mount Vernon, one of the things we need to do is to support our local businesses, our small businesses, in a way that encourages growth and encourages greater participation. So for example, parking is an issue in our corridor, on our main corridor, Gramerton 4th Avenue. And so we need to examine this issue of parking because in many other municipalities, for example, during the holidays, parking is suspended. We never see that in Mount Vernon. And I think it's really important that we support the businesses that are here and provide them with the opportunity to expand. You know, in other municipalities, in our neighboring municipalities, they have a week at the end of the summer where they put all the stuff out on the sidewalk sales. We don't see that in Mount Vernon. We need to be able to promote things like that showcase all the great businesses that we have here and allow others to understand. And that will probably get us some positive press as well, or more positive press. But I think it's going to start with what we already have. Building on what we already have, taking an inventory of all these industrial businesses that exist here. We don't really have a full understanding, and perhaps the City Council, as it exists, already does. But I think developing greater partnerships to understand what are the businesses that are here. Let's create a directory of what's in Mount Vernon so we know and we are able to promote it in a way that positively sells this community and provides greater information and awareness to our community members. So I think that's where I would start, is by and making sure, for example, I know that there are issues with some businesses, you know, on our bars and nightclubs, on some sides of town, the parking is shortened as opposed to the other side. So we need to be more equitable in how we distribute that kind of information.
Okay, this question is for Hope. A few months back, members from multiple agencies in the city came together to discuss a comprehensive plan for Mount Vernon. As a council person, how would you push forward and complete the plan?
Are you speaking in regard to real estate development?
City involved in the town.
I'm sorry. Can you rephrase what
Yeah, well, I'm just taking the question from the pool of questions. I'm pretty sure that they meant whatever agencies got together to discuss whatever comprehensive plans they had for the city.
Okay, but they're not specifying the agencies? Is it
No, they said that
multiple agencies?
Multiple agencies.
Multiple agencies. I don't know what they're speaking of. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm not going to lie to you. I have no clue what they're speaking of.
Bringing in people.
What multiple agencies?
Well, you know, they weren't specific with saying that, but can you elaborate on what you would do to bring forth a comprehensive plan for Mount Vernon in its future?
So, okay, comprehensively as a whole. I understand. Well, I would like for us to revitalize downtown Mount Vernon. It still looks like 1972. And not only the 4th Avenue area, also going towards the 3rd Street area also. I think that that can be a very strong economic area for us because we can have people from Pelham come in and shop and spend their money in Mount Vernon. That would be a nice place for us to have restaurants. We need restaurants. We need another movie theater. When I was a girl growing up here in Mount Vernon, New York, we had all of these things in abundance. We have gone from the city of homes to the city of hair and nails. Everywhere you look, you see a beauty parlor, you see a nail shop, you see, and it's just redundant. And don't get me wrong, I love my hairdresser. Her name is Cassandra, Mrs. Cassandra Oates, by the way. But I want her to be able to prosper as a business owner. How can she do that if everywhere you go, she's competing with all of these other beauty shops, these nail shops? This cash revenue is killing us. Because what it does is it dissuades large corporations from investing into our city. Instead of an Applebee's, we get McDonald's. Instead of even a Boston Market, I'd like to see one of those here. Those people are not even trying to come to Mount Vernon. And so, as I said, we have to, the truth is there is no master plan. That's not a secret to any of us. We have to get together and reassess. We have to reassess our needs. And we have to develop responsibly within this city. I think that is the #1 priority.
Time.
You cannot have residential without retail. You cannot have these things without activities for these people. You can't bring these people here and not know what to do with them. Sure, if you build the field, they're gonna come, but when they get there, what are they gonna do?
Candidate.
27th Street on Avenue. They put 27th Street and put it on Avenue.
All right, this question is for Janice. What approach will you take in dealing with DOJ's and DEC's order to repair sewers? Now, DOJ is the Department of Justice, and DEC is the Department of Environmental Conservation, for those who don't know.
What would be my approach?
Yeah. That was-
A collaborative approach, actually, because I did read that letter that was posted, and my sense from reading the letter was that the DOJ was inviting us, essentially, to sit down and talk about our plans. I think that once you have a good faith effort and a plan or a series of plans, because this is long-term, dealing with our sewers is a big project. We need to look at what can we do immediately in the short term, have a medium term, and a long-term plan, because it's going to take years to achieve a full repair. Looking at innovative ways to address the challenges themselves, partnering, not just seeking funding from the federal or the state level to help us with that, but partnering with institutions and other organizations that are finding better ways and more cost-effective ways to update infrastructure, aging infrastructure, are opportunities for us to take advantage of at this time. But the DOJ, I believe, is going to look more favorably on us if we are showing that good faith effort, if we are presenting plans. And they really, I think, made an attempt to invite us to do that in the last letter that I read that I'm aware of. So my approach and I would invite my city council members to all consider is to be open-minded, to sit down with the mayor. It has to be a collaborative effort. We need to put together a plan and have several stages to that plan. And we need to start showing that good faith effort.
15 seconds.
Thank you.
This question is for Marcus. Is it appropriate to continue building low-income rental buildings when it does not help tax base nor spur economic activity?
Excellent question. And it's going to be two-tiered. One problem that we have in our community is our senior population that are living in homes and they can't afford to live anyplace else. So I would say for our seniors, having a lower income bracket is an okay thing and it's the right thing to do. Because our seniors have lived here all their lives, they've paid all their taxes, and they're looking to stay here in the community. The problem that we have with the lower income developments is that, as we know, there are so many children that are moving into the district that it ends up leaning on the taxpayers to pay that bill. So I have been very clear that there's a difference between low income and affordable workforce housing. And what we're doing on the council is being realistic to our community and looking to do more affordable workforce housing, because I feel, and I've always said, we've done enough, plenty of enough lower income housing for the community. I will say a highlight though. The housing developments that we have put in place that a lot of people look at as a tax burden has a lot of success in it. People have said that the biggest problem with that building on 3rd is that there's so many students. But I'm telling you that back in the 80s, that 3rd and 3rd corridor was crack central, and we had major drug problems. So to say now, years after, that our biggest problem is that the kids are going to school is not that big of a deal. It's a good feeling to have. We have some successes here. Our students are going to college left and right. And believe it or not, Mount Vernon, not to beat up on us, but we don't have the, say it whispered here, we don't have the drug problem like a lot of other communities do. Our students do not have the drug problem like they have in Mayapack, etc. We're a blessed community. So I will say that lower income housing does not mean that there are going to be bad people moving in. It's just people struggling to get along, kind of like we do. We're all about one paycheck away from being in a major situation.
Time.
Thank you.
This question is for Clyde. What will you do to increase transparency, open deliberation, and public disclosure of information?
On the council.
Yes, of course.
City council represents the residents of Mount Vernon. So I'm a firm believer in transparency. I'm a firm believing in repeat visits to the communities that raise concerns. Not just so much to completely understand what it is they are addressing, but so that I could have a clearer understanding what the issues are, so I could offer solutions to the executive branch, my mayor, on how those solutions should be sought out. I think by taking that approach, and not only that, but to take advantage of the internet, to take advantage of the newspapers. When I say newspapers, my assembly person sends out a quarterly paper, my state senator sends out a quarterly paper. The city council has never sent out a paper to the residents of Mount Vernon. I believe that the more we communicate with the community to substantiate the positions or the direction that we intend to go in as a city council will make what we do a lot clearer to all of you and eliminate some of the gossip that seems to spread throughout the city. So my approach will be to redesign how city council works so that it's more friendly to the residents that it represents. That would be the approach that I would take. And I'm going to try and use up more time because everybody's been going over but me.
All right, so that concludes the questions and answer portion of the evening. Please give the candidates a round of applause. And I will ask you to give yourselves a round of applause for the questions and answers. Excellent. At the top of the program, we did allot 1 minute each. We're going to be flexible and increase that to 2 minutes, okay? And we did, by the way, in the planning, eliminate the lightning round. That was about 30 seconds. But, all right, so we're gonna ask each of the candidates to share your closing statement. And the sequence here would be 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So that's Hope, Janice, Marcus, Clyde, and Delia in that order. Hope.
Well, let me end where I began, where I tried to begin. Forgive me for that. My parents were not born in this great city, but this is the place where they chose to raise me and my 3 sisters. This is a place where they bought their first home together, where they owned a business together, where they prospered together. I owe this city. As I said before, I am a pro bono paralegal. I assist federal and state employees in regard to the processing of their union grievances with their unions even, because believe it or not, the unions are not being all that friendly to a lot of their members lately. And I'm not saying that about all unions, I'm just saying in general. That's one way that I have of giving back. I don't want to speak too much about giving back because I think that that's a personal thing. But what I want to explain to you is that I'm invested in this city. I don't feel as if I'm entitled because I was born and raised here, but at the end of the day, this is home. This is the only home that I've ever known. And I want to serve this city. I want to serve the citizens of this city. It's cliche when people speak of the potential that we have. We are still an elite city. We're not honing in on what we have. We have 3 Metro North stations. Scarsdale has 1, Larchmont has 1, New Rochelle has 1, and they're a bit more populated than we are. They have 1 train station. We are 30 minutes away from Manhattan. When I grew up here in Mount Vernon, New York, my mother always reiterated to me that this was one of the greatest cities ever to live because of its proximity to Manhattan, because of the opportunities for prosperity. We still have that going for us. We have to respect what we have, and we have to represent ourselves more appropriately to the rest of the citizens of this county. I want us to be a part of the family of Westchester, not apart from the family of Westchester. I want the rest of Westchester County to respect my home.
Hope. Thank you.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You can clap. Janice.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the hosts and the moderators for preparing this forum and for all of you for joining us tonight. Given our current climate, and we see it happening in DC on the national level, and it's happening here locally, but given our current climate, we see that our values and our dreams are vulnerable to attack. The horizon is filled with gathering clouds of cynicism and false promise. Tapping into anger, creating confusion, and leaving us void of dignity and discourse. Accusations of corruption are used to cloak and protect corruption itself. This is why this election, it is so important that we elect the right representatives to office. We really can't afford to make mistakes. My name is Janice Duarte. I'm committed to serve you with unyielding integrity, to seek innovative solutions to improve our quality of life, empower our youth, and keep our city safe. I offer to be your new independent and democratic voice on the City Council so that the city delivers on the basics and residents can see their future. S-E-E. Safety, education, employment. We need to explore different strategies to improve our public safety, including a crime strategy unit that will help improve our resources and hone in our resources. Education, partnering with Mount Vernon School District and the WCC Mount Vernon Extension to provide those training programs that are necessary. And employment, providing an economic environment that will employ our population. So I humbly ask for your support and for your vote on September 12th Remember to vote Janice
Aye.
Duarte for City Council. 7A. Thank you.
Marcus?
Well, once again, I'd like to thank the Wartburg and Derrickson Lawrence and the Fleetwood Citizen Society for allowing us to have this debate. I think I bring the experience that you all need. You know, I've been working for the city for many years in different aspects, and I want to continue to do that. I look around the room and I think I know 70% of the crowd, and maybe even more. I try my best to really get to know people and understand what they're going through and why they think the way they think. Even if we don't agree, I sit there and I make sure that you understand where I'm coming from and my perspective. And a lot of people don't know all the work that goes on the council. We work really hard to do what's right for the city. And I'm gonna absolutely continue to do that. I have a finance degree, I've adopted planning, and I'm also the historian for Mount Vernon. Whenever anybody wants to do a tour of Mount Vernon, I'm very proud to stand up and point out things. My candidates that are running with me, I'm sure they're tired of me talking about great things that have happened in this community. And I'm gonna continue to do that. We have a strong history, we have strong people that are a part of it, and I'm gonna continue to support you. Even when we talk about hard decisions that I've made, whether they be on pilot or any housing, I know people are critical of what I'm doing, but I guarantee you, as a heavy taxpayer in this city who has a business here, has multiple homes here, my parents live in separate facilities here. There's absolutely no way I'm gonna do anything to harm this community. I'm gonna work really hard to get the best decision, whatever it may be. And you know, people have taken me to court or taken the council to court. We've settled or we've worked things out, and most of the time I've won. And I've guaranteed people that I was going to win because I have a strategy that's going to build this community. I'm not going to let this community down. If you ever think I'm doing anything wrong, feel free to come up to me and let me know what I'm doing wrong. And I'll make sure if I am doing it wrong, I'm going to correct my ways. I'm going to thank you for your criticism, and I'm going to keep on supporting Mount Vernon. Once again, thank you, and as I always end, God bless you and God bless the city of Mount Vernon.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you choose to elect me your city council person, I pledge to you that I will work with our mayor and our police department to address our rising crime in this city. Secondly, I will see to it, by working closely with my mayor, that we address our broken sidewalks and our pothole roadways. I also believe that we need to address our cleanliness, both in our roadways and in private homes that are owned by the children of parents who may have passed on. When you walk the streets of Mount Vernon, on every block, there are homes that are overgrown and unkept. There's no reason for that. No reason whatsoever. Our sidewalks, not the sidewalk that's just in front of your home, but the sidewalk that abuts to the street. There's no reason for that not to be mowed regularly. And there's no reason we allow others in our community to throw trash in the street. Why do we do this? Why? And we all see this. And I want to remind you one other thing. When you travel throughout this great county, and people say, where are you from? Do you quickly say I'm from Mount Vernon? Or do you mumble it under your breath? Well, enough. We have no reason to allow this to go on. And I promise you, as your council person, I will focus on those things and make a difference in the 4 years that I serve you. Thank you again for everyone. I'm glad I was given the opportunity to share my feelings with you about my love for the city of Mount Vernon, and I plead with you, please go vote September 12th. I made A, but I'm simply asking you to vote, because when you look at our federal government, you see what happens when you don't. Thank you.
Delia.
Let me say thank you to our moderators and to our sponsors, Derrickson and the Westchester Homeowners Association, and to you, the audience, for your attention. Public service, I think, is the greatest calling. And as a mental health provider, a licensed clinical social worker, I've worked in this community providing therapy to our community members in need. And in doing that job, it is very important to understand that engaging with people where they are is the most essential part, I think, of my position. Seeing the needs that exist in our community and understanding that there are many who are voiceless, who are in need, and that there are children impacted every day by the conditions that exist in our city. I've worked with my brother's keeper, the President Obama Initiative, to improve outcomes for young men of color. I've worked with Dr. Cole on the Wellness Initiative, because for me, it's about improving the quality of life for everyone in this city, the quality of wellness for everyone in this city. As your city council person, that's what I pledge to do. I pledge to continue to listen, to be focused on the needs of the community, and not just listen, but once I hear you, to act, and then to report back on what is done or what is accomplished. We have many things to be proud of in this city.
15 seconds.
I think it's really important that we are thoughtful in how we select our leaders, and that our leaders should reflect you, should reflect the needs of what you want, and look for the same qualities that you have in yourself, honesty and integrity. I'm 9A on the ballot, and I'm Delia Farquharson. Thank you.
We have one more hearty round of applause for our candidates. We'd like to, at this time, close out the program. Please welcome Derek and Loris back to the podium.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Number one, please give a round of applause to our lead moderator, Emerson Brown. Great job. Our moderator was great. Let me say, this is what democracy looks like. Thoughtful representation of the issues by stellar candidates. They deserve a round of applause, please. Yeah. Now, on September 12th, we have a job to do. We're going to try to make a selection amongst those great candidates. I've got to tell you, I would have a difficult time, based on what I've heard tonight. To you candidates, regardless of what happens on September 12th, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So, for those who don't make it, stay involved, stay active, stay engaged. I want to thank you for your support this evening. I want to thank our co-sponsor, the Fleetwood Citizen Society. I want to thank our host. I want to thank you, the audience. Take care and good night.